Welcome to the Rural Pastor Podcast with your host, Pastor Andy Addis.
You plant the seeds in the ground, though the fields have long been brown. But Lord, when will your harvest come in? You're giving all you've got to give in the place where you've been sent. But will this labor make much difference in the end? Will no one ever know? Sometimes you feel so all alone. Like the prophet Jeremiah, you may be the one to go to the dying and the broken with a message of hope. To that church on the corner of that forgotten little town, with a room of empty pews where his love can still be found. You may never know of all the seeds you sow, but it just takes one willing soul to make him known.
One willing soul, man. We are so glad to be back with another season of the Rural Pastor Podcast. We are coming at you live this time with an opening season episode at the Rural Summit in Salina, Kansas. We got people from all over the country who've flown in, driven in, and are spending a day or two talking about the power of partnerships and what it means to do rural ministry. We're going to just interview a handful of people that are doing different kinds of ministry, from pastoral to denominational. And as we roll through this, we're going to tackle the question of whether or not, or not whether or not, but what is the best part of ministry in rurality, or what is one of the difficulties, and just get to know a few voices. It's going to be a great journey. We hope to see you on it, and let's talk to a few folks here at the Rural Summit in Salina.
My name is Ben Hamblett. I am an associate pastor. I take care of our worship, our youth ministry, and our counseling ministries at a small church. Our town's about 800 people or so. But yeah, that's kind of what we do.
What's the name of your church?
Our church is Earnhardt Baptist Church.
Earnhardt. So you just, the name of the community?
No, it was a family name from...
Not Dale.
100-something years ago. No, it's with an A, Earnhardt.
Earnhardt, okay.
Yeah, but the family was there. Kind of a cool story. They traded the land that the church sits on from where the church used to be, and they put it on log skids and drug it up there with the team of mules. And,
good grief.
Yeah, we're celebrating 150 years next year.
So small town, rural motif, and you even drug the church into place.
Straight up, they cut the church off its foundation, put it on skids with the team of mules back in, I think, 1910, and drug it up to where it is now.
You got to love it.
Yeah,
gotta love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a question that we're posing. In rural ministry, you get to pick which side of the coin. What is one of the greatest parts about being in rural ministry, or what is one of the most difficult pieces of rural ministry?
I want to talk about the greatest thing that I think rural ministry has, and that is rural people. They are very unique, especially from each other. You know, it depends on which rural setting you're in. For us, we have a bunch of farmers, and the thing about rural farmers is they have learned to depend upon the Lord, because if it doesn't rain, it's a real bad year.
Oh, man.
No matter what you're farming, if it's cows, if it's crops, whatever it is. And so they have a settled faithfulness and dedication. There's never a doubt for these farmers, like, maybe we should sell ice cream or shoes, or no, they're going, well, let's try again. You know, maybe next year's going to be better, you know. And I think a lot of them carry that attitude into the church. It can be a blessing and a curse, you know, because sometimes they're going, we'll survive this, pastor, you know, well, this is a down year. We'll see what the next guy's like.
That's right.
But then they also are showing up every single week, every Sunday, every Wednesday for the study, for the meeting. And a lot of them, they have a strong, settled confidence in supporting the church financially. And I mean, I think that the people that make up our rural church are definitely the biggest blessing.
Man, I love that. What you're saying is that these guys, they're unique. These farmers have characteristics that are a blessing to you, but also, I mean, one side of the coin, they're some of the hardest working people on the planet, which is awesome, but they also don't know how to take a Sabbath, right? And so that uniqueness is a part of the flavor. I once heard it said, and I can't give you the quote, but farming is a great illustration of ministry, because God won't do what he wants farmers to do, but farmers can't do what only God can do. So they got to plow, they got to put the seed, but only God can give the growth.
That's right.
Man, that's a wonderful perspective in dealing with farmers, as well as the rest of the diversity of rural folks in your community. Do you find that there are seasons for farmers, just like they have growing seasons, where it's easier to do ministry with them and more difficult?
Yeah, so I told you I do the youth ministry, and so that means during the summer, you would think that that's camp, mission trip, go time.
It's harvest season.
It is hay season. So they're all out in the fields, and you're thinking Wednesday night, man, am I going to have anybody show up tonight? Because everybody's out there, they're making a quarter a bale that they buck up onto the trailer. And, all these guys, they're out working. They're working for each other and each other's families. So, the summer is definitely a different season compared to, like, I came from a city of about 3,000 people, and there were some farmers, but there was enough people that worked in town that you always had a crowd.
Yeah.
And so there was always something going on. You didn't really have to worry about it. Summer was a big time, all the kids coming in. And, yeah, this rural community, it's kind of hit and miss. You have to be a lot more flexible. And, man, when it rains in the summer, you're thanking the Lord, because that means all those kids are coming inside.
That's right. That's being a missionary and understanding your people. Ben, thank you so much. What a great contribution. And I hope that you will, I hope that many who are listening to you will be encouraged on the Rural Pastor Podcast. Blessings. All right. Sitting across from me now is a good friend, a fellow minister, and we share a last name because we are family.
Yes,
but
we
introduce yourselves and tell me where you're serving.
Yeah, my name is Nathan Addis, and I'm the location pastor at Cross Point McPherson in McPherson, Kansas, surprisingly.
And yes, very surprisingly. Now, in that, you guys are a relatively new church plant?
Yeah, we had just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. We launched on Easter last year, and of course, we just celebrated Easter not too long ago.
A couple of weeks ago. That's
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, so you're in rural work. You actually were drawn back from the big city of Topeka. I know in some places Topeka's not considered big, but it's 300,000 people. You got your own Best Buy and an Olive Garden, so come on now. You got.
That's right. We have more than one Walmart.
That's right. And now you're in McPherson, Kansas, which is one of those, we have the Walmart local communities. Mm-hmm. But help us out. What is one of the best parts of rural ministry, or what is one of the biggest obstacles? Your choice.
Yeah, I'll actually give you a little bit of a cop-out. It's something that I consider to be both.
Oh, really?
In the rural context, you are always on when you're in ministry. You can't leave the house and not see somebody from your congregation.
That's right.
And I say that's a blessing and a curse, because for me, it prompted me to care more about how I dress, how I act,
Really?
how I drive, how I conduct myself in public, because there is an expectation that you're going to see somebody that you know and who knows how you should be acting. And so that is a positive and a negative, in the sense that, oh no, I can't leave the house without seeing somebody that I know.
Yeah, because in rural ministry, you can't go into a store without making it a visitation program.
That's right.
That's awesome. So have you enjoyed that part of it? Or you say it's both a positive and negative. Is it, in your mind, more of an enjoyable part of the rural life, or is it a detriment?
See, I can tell you, as somebody who is still a little green in this, I enjoy it. I love when I'm walking through Walmart and I hear somebody go, "Oh, hey, Pastor." I love turning around to have that conversation. And you can talk to a more seasoned or experienced pastor, and they might have a different take on that. But I can tell you right now, at 25, 1 year into this, I love it.
That's awesome. Well, man, thanks for contributing. And you're going to help us all out here at the Rural Pastor Podcast. All right, next up to the table, not only a fellow pastor, but a former neighbor, as weird as that is. Go ahead, share with us your name and where you're serving right now.
My name is Stephen Schaefer. I serve at Bible Pathways Fellowship in Yoder, Kansas.
Yoder, Kansas. Now, we're talking about as rural as you can get.
The big city.
For people who don't know Yoder, tell us what Yoder, Kansas is.
Well, so when you think of Yoder, you think of two things: Amish and cinnamon rolls.
That's right.
You can't go to Yoder and not go to Carriage Crossing and get a cinnamon roll. But it is, like you said, as rural as it gets. It's a farming community, a great Amish community. I have a mustache, so I'm not Amish, but we are the only church in
the only church in the community?
The only church in Yoder.
Wow.
Yoder.
That is crazy. Now, by the way, for those of you listening, don't forget we're live in the foyer of the Rural Summit. But here's what's really cool, too, before we get to the actual question. This is your first pastorate, and this is a secondary career because you were in law enforcement for years.
I was. I just retired a month and a half ago from lengthy career in law enforcement. So,
And now you're doing this.
yeah, isn't it crazy? God is good.
But at the end, the tailing off of your law enforcement, you were already exploring ministry.
I
and-
was.
yeah.
I actually talked to you. I did so over a period of time. I probably went through a period of discernment of 2 years.
Yeah.
And
That's called discernment. Sometimes they're also called avoidance.
yeah, well, right, avoidance.
Let's get to the question then. In rural ministry, especially, you're out in a unique situation, Amish territory, very small community. You see a lot of horse and buggies on a regular basis. But for you, either side of the coin, what is one of the best parts of rural ministry, or what is one of the bigger obstacles?
I'm learning obstacles daily. I mean, to pick one isn't really, it's easy. What I can tell you is the joy of rural ministry is everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And I know, but it's also a downside. Everybody knows everybody.
There you go.
So, but everybody is some way associated with farming, and for those that don't know, the farming community has very deep roots, and they stretch far and wide. So I have a lot of visitors that stay. So we've seen exponential growth just based on the fact that everybody knows everybody.
That's awesome.
So
now let me ask you this, because I find this to be true, especially in specific rural communities. I know in a couple that I'm aware of, I don't know about Yoder, but is it one of those places where they may love on you and they may accept you, but if you're not from there, you're never from there?
you get a little bit of that, yeah, you get a little bit of that.
How do you try and overcome that? Because you want to be a part of the community, you want to be a member of, but you don't want to be an outsider forever.
Well, fortunately for me, I was the chief of police in Haven, which is like 5 miles away.
There you go.
So I know a lot of the people through that venue, but you just love on them. You love on them, and you don't over love on them, but you don't under love on them. Man, that sounded so weird, but anyway,
No, that's exactly right.
You gotta love on them, and that's you. If you try to picture how Christ would go into a community, and because he was with sinners, he was with the other side of the coin, and he invited them to the table. You just kind of take that aspect. You're inviting new people to the gospel and the word, and you just got to be wholesome and genuine. You can't
Just love on them and let it happen.
Love on them and let it go.
I remember reading in the Purpose Driven Church years ago about an obituary that said, "Beloved Texas teacher passes away." And then as you read the obituary, this was like in Michigan, Minnesota, somewhere up north, it said that he'd been there for 40 years. And yet he was still known as the Texas teacher.
Wow.
But he gave his life for those and was beloved. And even though you weren't born there, you can still be their guy.
Amen.
Amen. Well, what a pleasure, brother. We're praying for your ministry, and may God bless the work in Yoder.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next up to bat, a friend that I met online first, and now we're meeting here at the conference. Ben, introduce yourself and tell us about where you're serving and that ministry.
Yeah, so I'm Ben White. I pastor part of a multi-site campus called New City Church in Kansas City. I'm their most rural plant in Edgerton, Kansas. Been there about 3 years.
Edgerton, Kansas.
Edgerton, Kansas.
I've always wondered, was it named Edgerton because it's on the edge of Kansas City?
That's what it feels like. That's what they'll tell you, too.
And so you have access to all the big stuff, but I've been to Edgerton. I tried to get gas in Edgerton, and you don't have many options.
No, you have one option. You have one gas station, and it's not a Casey's, believe it or not. That's how you know it's a little more rural.
And you don't have a blinking light.
No blinking lights, no, just a few stop signs.
We are just justifying, make sure you know that this is a rural pastor to share with us right now. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for taking some time to be here. The question is, and you get to answer either side of the coin that you'd like, what is one of the best parts of rural ministry, or what is one of the bigger obstacles in rural ministry, whichever one you'd like to approach?
I'm going to answer both.
Okay.
I've been thinking about this, and it's age, so I'm a young guy, started ministry 26 as a lead pastor, and so it was really hard, especially coming into a long-standing congregation. They're not used to young people. They're really reluctant to change, trust, accommodate, right? New ideas, things like that. But then on the flip side, it's been really good because I've been able to push the congregation. I think differently than they do. New ideas, fresh ideas. I don't say they're all great.
There's some humility.
I think in 3 years of ministry, I'm confident of saying I've had one great idea, and that's about it, But
Hey, 1 in 3 is
Yeah,
not bad.
but it's the ability of, man, like even this kind of summit right now, like looking out at the congregation, there aren't a lot of young guys in rural ministry. It's tough. I was talking to my wife, and they like the more urban spaces. There's
Yeah.
more room for growth, more room for development. But,
Younger leaders are attracted more to that urban context.
but I tell you what, man, like if you can teach a young man endurance in ministry, especially in rural ministry, he'll change the life of the church.
Amen. Man, what a good word. The endurance part of that, how do you teach that? In your mindset, how do you learn endurance so that you can jump into that?
Ask questions. But, I don't have a seminary background. I don't have much of a schooling background. And so, I would encourage the older guys listening to this, find a young guy and let him ask you questions. Let him sit under you, let him buy you coffee or buy them coffee, and just say, hey, I'm opening up the next hour.
Love it.
Whatever you want to know.
So practice that mentor-mentee kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Say, as you look forward to what's the next big thing for you and your church?
Yeah, so we're doing this series right now through Luke, and so we're working on building an invitation culture, and what does it look like to actually not invite people to the church, and it feels like this revolutionary thing to say inside of a church building, like, I don't want butts and seats, right? And so I told my congregation and really pastoring them to, if they come to church and miss Jesus in your home first,
Ooh,
you're doing something wrong.
there's your mic drop right there.
Yeah. And so I think that also builds a mentality in the community of these guys love the God that they serve, but the God that they serve doesn't love the community.
So if it's not about butts in the seat, like you said, we got to change the metric. And I've heard it said this way. Tell me if this is what you're getting at. That it's not about our seating capacity; it's about our sending capacity.
Yeah.
It's about those we're putting out in the mission.
Yeah, I would say it's. Yeah, I think it's about the sending in that specific mindset. Like we think of sending churches, and we're planting in new cities, and we want to be in this, but oftentimes, like, I've got a huge heart for missions and local missions, global missions, you name it. Oftentimes, I think we miss the importance of an at-home missionary.
Amen.
And so, like Luke talks about, and shows several examples of Jesus at a meal.
Yeah.
This wasn't at a church. It wasn't a church function. It was, he's either been invited to a meal, but really that's what it was. He was a guest of honor at a lot of different places, and people came to experience Jesus.
That's right. So we don't necessarily need to be a church that sends people on mission trips until those missionaries are missionaries at home.
We need to be a church that sends people on mission.
Love it, brother. Great stuff. And Ben, many blessings on you and your ministry.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right, let's keep going. We have a very important individual here, not just a pastor, but someone who is in what we call an associational missionary position. So introduce yourself and tell us where you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, my name's David Roberts. I'm the associational mission strategist for the Bay Area Baptist Association of Michigan, and we cover 11 counties across central Michigan.
11 counties, and you said you have 9 churches.
9 SBC churches, yes.
And we were talking the difference between rural and town and country, and so you're pretty spread out.
We are. I mean, in our area, the further south you go, the more town and country and the more urban it gets.
Right.
Towards Flint, Lansing, Detroit. But the further north you get, the more rural it gets. And town and country is a big thing there where we are as well.
Now, I got to fly in one time and do a wedding in Frankenmuth.
Yes, that's in my association.
Is it really?
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
That was a beautiful town. And
It's a
I
great
thought it was,
place.
I don't know if you know this history. If you do, I want you to tell the story.
Okay.
But there are lots of white crosses all over the town of Frankenmuth. And what we were told is that the county they changed the city or the county logo or whatever and took the cross off. And so in rebellion, just people forever have been putting these white crosses
No,
up.
I haven't heard that, but that makes sense.
Is that right?
Sounds like what someone would do.
Yeah, it's rebellious Christianity.
There
I
we
love
go.
it at the very heart
That's
of
us.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the question that we have here as we're at the Rural Summit is, rural ministry, what is one of the best parts, or one of the obstacles that where you are up in the state that looks like a hand,
Right.
that's really
Yeah.
spread apart? Help us out. Which one would you like
So
to
with
cover?
us, 11 counties, big, where we are, it's, I would say one of the obstacles is distance, fellowship. And I know there's video options these days for a lot of things, but sometimes you just can't replace the personal in-person,
Yeah.
face-to-face kind of visits. And that can be hard to try to do cooperative ministry with churches spread out like they are.
100%. And your goal as an associational guy is that you're wanting to create an association of guys.
Yep.
What have been some of your answers that you've at least taken a swing at to remove that isolation?
Well, one of the things we do is we have regional fellowships for the pastors that can at least get to them.
Yeah.
We have one on the west side of our association that meets once a month in the town of Clare, and we meet together for lunch, and we are studying through a book, and we just have some good fellowship there. And then we do another one the third Wednesday of the month in Bay City for the guys in the I-75 corridor and the guys on the east side. So we're also studying through a book together, and sometimes we eat together, sometimes we don't, but it's just a good time for us.
It just keeps you on the road quite a bit.
It does.
doesn't it?
I do a lot of traveling with my work.
Well, that's awesome. Now, when you see these guys who are doing this work, they're doing rural ministry, they feel isolated. When you get together like that, what's the experience like with those guys?
Just joy, just some camaraderie. I think some of them feel validated because they're hearing what others are saying, and they realize, you know what? That's where I'm at. I feel the same way, or I'm experiencing similar things. And so it's somewhat validating, but it's also encouraging because when they can get off to the side and talk and kind of pick their minds about different things, that can be helpful.
It's very helpful. So one last thought on this. Let me ask you this. If you were trying to give an encouraging word to a pastor from any part of the country, but he's rural and he feels isolated, but he's like, I have to drive an hour and a half. I don't have the time, this and that. Is it worth it to make the time in your schedule for those kind of gatherings?
It is worth it. Make it a priority. You might not can get to everything, but when you see something or you learn of something that's coming up, put it on the calendar, do everything you can to get there.
Protect it.
Yes, and get there.
Because it's not just about you, but it's also about what you're offering to that group. Somebody may need to hear from you even if you don't need it that month, right?
Exactly.
That's
right.
awesome.
I mean, it's not always about you. Sometimes it's what you can bring to it.
Such a good word. Thank you, brother, for serving, and we love you and what you're doing out there to help us reach the rural spaces.
All right. Thanks, Andy.
Continuing to talk to all these guys here at the Rural Summit in Salina, I have a guy who not only have I known him since he was a kid, not only have I worked with him, but I'm proud to have him now on the Rural Pastor Podcast. Give us your name and where you're serving right now, brother.
Ken Bowden. I am serving in Elkhart, Kansas, and I live in Garden City, Kansas.
So how far a drive is that between?
It's about 105 miles.
Goodness, that's a stretch because Elkhart's almost out of Kansas.
Yeah. It's if you go out south, you're in Oklahoma.
That's it.
If you drive 7 miles north, 7 miles west, you're in Colorado.
I knew it was down in the corner.
Yeah.
And here's the big trouble that he says his name is Ken. I call him Kenny all the time because you're Ken Jr.
I am.
And I've known your dad for years.
Yes.
Well, thankful for your service and what you're doing in rural spaces. The question is, what is something that's great about rural ministry or an obstacle? You get to choose which one of those. Lay one of those out for us.
All right. I'll give you both if that's all right.
That'll be great.
Well, one of the great things about it is there's an inbuilt community sense in a lot of our rural areas where they have to lean on each other as a church. But one of the negatives is no one's moving into some of our rural areas. We have towns and counties that are declining. No one even know. I'm surprised you know where Elkhart is. Not a lot of people who live in Kansas know where it is. So people just don't want to look forward to going to Elkhart or our other rural areas.
Yeah, those smaller places don't have the draw that the urban places do. Go back to the positive, first of all. You were saying that there's a built-in sense of community. Sometimes people feel like small places are us four and no more, you can't get in. But what you're saying is, in a church small community, there's a welcomeness to it.
Yeah, there is that welcomeness, especially excited to see a new person. There is some of that excitement. And so there does come a hesitation for some people coming in because they feel like I don't belong because I'm not a part of that church. But what I have seen is there is a sense of community that can be built in, that can help people feel welcome when they come.
And I love that, because if that's happening, that's a healthy church.
Yeah.
But if people are outsiders even in church, then that's a sign you got an unhealthy church, right?
Right.
Because that community should be there. That's the ecclesia. That's the fellowship. Now, on the negative side, there are just things that are happening economically and culturally where there is some brain drain and some flight away from rural spaces. How have you dealt with that? Because out in Elkhart, I'm sure it's not drawn massive crowds.
Yeah.
What's something that you would say to encourage a pastor who their community is experiencing some of that?
I would say you are given the people in your community that you're supposed to reach.
That's awesome.
You know, people aren't coming, but there's still people there. And also sometimes you have to look outside of your community. You know, because Elkhart is about 15 minutes away from another town. 20 miles away from somewhat of a town.
Increase that circle radius of where you're going to reach.
Right.
Man, I love that. But the key thought is, pastor the flock you have, not the one you wish you had. Right?
Exactly.
Man, Ken, that's so good to hear from you. And thank you so much for serving what you do. And many blessings on you and the ministry in Elkhart and that 100-plus mile drive all the time.
Thanks, Andy.
And our last guest of the day, it is the midnight hour at this conference. You have endured to the end. You're a Revelation
We are
Christian.
here.
That's right. This is not only a great pastor doing things in rural space, but we have a history all the way back to when you were in college.
Yeah.
And I wish we had time to tell that story. But give us your name, where you're serving, kind of what ministry's like these days.
Jim Gallagher, pastor at Calvary Bible Church. We're outside of Wichita on a 10-acre horse ranch, close to Park City, just kind of outside of the city. Long history in city, but we moved to the rural area outside of the town and actually grew through that move, which has been really neat to see. And God's just been really good, and we've been enjoying country life.
Wait, before I give you the other question, you say, I'm pretending like I didn't know this, so I'm pretending for your sake, everybody listening out there, that you moved from urban to rural, and it spurred growth for you.
We did.
Not to you, it's a pun for a horse ranch.
There you go. There you go. I even mentioned on Easter Sunday, I preached for the first time in boots. And we're not a cowboy church, but, you know, what we did was, amid all the challenges of inner city that we were dealing with, and especially city of Wichita, we felt, actually, God let us out.
Yeah.
And we ended up, the Lord dropped a 10-acre horse ranch on our lap, and it's become a refuge outside of the city. And in fact, kind of one of the questions you were asking some of us, and what are the blessings or the drawbacks to
go ahead, because
ministry?
that's the goal of this. Which one would you like to approach?
And I would say one of the blessings has been just in rural ministry, the pulls and temptations of the city, people can escape. Right, and even as a pastor, it's just so nice to be able to. I mean, we have a half-mile walking path. It's been fun to see how people have turned our 10-acre horse ranch, just the whole body of Christ. Just even, we moved out there 70 or 80 people.
Wow.
And it's become just a place of refuge. So one farmer came out and put in a half-mile walking path, and we bought our first. This is the craziest. We bought our first tractor as a church, and I never would have thought I'd ever drive a tractor, but here we are.
There's not usually a tractor line item in the budget.
no, there wasn't, and that was a special funding thing. But yeah, no. So we've been able to enjoy life outside of the pulls and the frustrations and the noise of the city, and we've been able to experience it together out just on the Kansas farm field, and it has been a joy. It really has, in rural, just to experience life together as it should be.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that city life isn't as it should be. There's certainly different strokes, but it has been nice to just take the distractions away and be able, even in a small context, and we hope to grow, and we have been growing, which is, I think people find the escape, even if they got to drive, even if it's out to the country. I think, what is it? Jesus had mentioned there, and I believe it's probably prophetic, but towards the end, when that house of God needs to be filled, go to the highways and the byways, right?
There you go.
Jesus was
That's
told
it.
to go to the country, that his house would be full. And so we're really feeling like we're fulfilling that here, and people are just really they're coming out to the country, out to the fields, and finding Jesus, and we're having a great time doing it.
Man, what a great way to end this series. We've talked to a lot of guys, and we end on a prophetic note.
There you go.
I just love
Jesus is coming soon. Keep looking east.
He is coming soon.
And come east, because that's where Calvary Bible is. Anyway, no.
And that is a pastor with a plug right
Always.
at the very end. That is so cool. Well, we are just thrilled that you have joined us on this journey. So many voices, and Brother Jim, we just appreciate you so much for what you're doing, and we know what God's going to do is even better. Many blessings.
Hey, you too. Love
Like
you
the
guys.
prophet Jeremiah, you may be the one to go to the dying and the broken with a message of hope. To that church on the corner of that forgotten little town, with a room of empty pews where his love can still be found. You may never know of all the seeds you sow, but it just takes one willing soul to make him known.
Thank you for joining us on the Rural Pastor Podcast. Special thanks to Chosen Road for our incredible theme music, and to 180 Digital for their corporate sponsorship and making all the technical things possible. Rural Church Leader, we want to remind you that your work is important, that you are important, and that you are not alone. See you again soon for another edition of the Rural Pastor Podcast.